All right, our last session is about supportive employment. So I'm going to go through what's available to start. So there are psych rehab services, which traditionally are a different model than a clubhouse service. Those are offered through Human Services Inc. and Elwyn. And Elwyn offers both site-based and mobile services, mobile meaning they meet the people within the community. Then we have a clubhouse system, which is offered by Human Services Inc. and Holcomb. And lastly, there is a traditional supportive employment program offered through CareLink. Slide. So let's talk a little bit about Clubhouse, and we also have panelists who are going to go into more detail about this service. So a clubhouse is a physical location that individuals are going to. They offer a day program, so you can do half days, which are around 3 hours or 6 hours. It really depends on what the individual is looking for with the clubhouse system. They can help with transitional and competitive employment. And transitional employment refers to some sort of job that maybe will just help you get reacclimated to the working world. Maybe it's not exactly what you want to do forever, but it helps you just get adjusted. And competitive employment maybe is something that will help build your career, is something that you might have to do a more extensive job interview for. It's a little bit more advanced than the transitional employment. And for Clubhouse, they do individual support plans. So maybe a goal would be gain competitive employment in 1 year. The Clubhouse system can help with job shadowing, job coaching, resume building. As with all the services I've talked about today, it's really what the individual is looking for. Next slide. So the schedule of a Clubhouse, from my understanding, it starts every day with a morning meeting where people can talk about what they're going to do for that day. They have different units. So there's a kitchen, a canteen, clerical, and all of these different units are meant to help individuals work on whatever job skills they're trying to build. So maybe someone wants to apply to more administrative types of jobs. They'll work in the clerical unit so they can get some support on that. And they work with staff throughout the day. So I think what makes the clubhouse system really special is you're able to work in often somewhat stressful environments on these skills, but have staff right there so you can ask questions, you can feel like you can take breaks, you can feel supported in a way that would be difficult to achieve in a traditional working environment. There's also group topics that Clubhouse members will discuss together. They can choose whatever topic they'd like to discuss, whatever feels relevant to what's going on with them. And sometimes there are even outings like movie nights or getting ice cream. These Clubhouse members spend a lot of time together, so they often form bonds with each other as they're working with each other. Next slide. So who qualifies for the Clubhouse program? It's an 18 plus program. As I've said with the other services, all of these services we're discussing are specific to the adult population. You also need a serious mental illness diagnosis. This is a little bit different than the serious and persistent mental illness diagnosis we talked about earlier. It's not quite at the same level of severity and impairment. And it's a voluntary program. And what's really cool about the Clubhouse system, once you're a member for life. So you can come in whenever you'd like to. There's no expiration date. And that's pretty unique for this type of service. Next slide. So how do you apply? So firstly, the staff will screen the application from the individual, and then the person will do an interview where the Clubhouse members can actually meet the interviewee, which is awesome because one, they'll be working with them every day. They'll be able to see how they'll work together. And also it's a really great opportunity for Clubhouse members to mimic that job environment where they're also going to be having a say in who their coworkers are and what kind of work style everyone has. So you can self-refer for this program. Anyone can submit an application. And you will need a psych evaluation from a licensed mental health practitioner, so psychiatrist, I think even a therapist. Your case manager can help you get connected with that. And the team will identify what the individual who's applying would like to work on, and the majority of referrals come from therapists and psychiatrists. Next slide. So let's talk about psych rehab. This is usually site-based or mobile. Mobile services are referring to when the care team will meet the individual within the community. So that could be at their house, that could be at a public library, anywhere that's going to feel convenient for the individual and work with their schedule. They will work with the individual on 4 domains that stretch a little bit beyond employment. So social, living, learning, and employment. Next slide. And similar to the clubhouse, there's an individual recovery plan. An example could be in 2 years, I would like full-time employment at X. In the site-based program, there are groups in person. They work on symptom management, how to apply for jobs. It's a very hands-on program, and there's a lot of staff support. And they work on all types of life skills. The funding for this program is county funded, community care behavioral health, which is the Medicaid system for Chester County, and you can also use private insurance for this. Next slide. And last, we have CareLink, which is a more traditional type of supportive employment service. It's a relatively small department. There are 21 clients right now served by CareLink. It operates both between Delaware County and Chester County. And as an overall service, in addition to supportive employment, they also offer supportive living and mobile psych. Next slide. And they also offer assistance with work or educational goals. This could even include volunteering. We talked a little bit in the last session about how often, if you're connected with other services like supportive living, sometimes you just want help in structuring your day and wanting something to do during the day or just find a little bit more meaning. So if you're not quite ready for work, you could ask for help getting connected to a meaningful volunteer situation. As with the other programs, every plan is individual driven. In my conversations with Corey, who works for CareLink, he stressed that people can be looking for all types of services, including help with master's degrees, support on the job, career development, finishing GED, basic employment, job interviewing, or resume building. And people usually work with their CareLink support staff for about an hour. Frequency is individual based. It's often weekly or bi-weekly. It's going to depend on what the individual is looking for. Next slide. So how to apply for CareLink, you'll start by calling CareLink. I'll have that contact information at the end. You'll also need a psychological evaluation from the last 12 months, and you'll also need the serious mental illness diagnosis, do an intake with Corey Abbott, who will be on our panel, and it's an 18+ service. Referrals usually come from case management, such as Holcomb. People self-refer, and sometimes people get referred from a psych rehab program for this additional support. Next slide. And last few questions. What are some frequently asked questions about this service? The funding for CareLink is through the Office of Mental Health, and it is not insurance-based. The program will decide on a payment plan with the individual. They have a location in Lansdowne. Occasionally, they'll go to the home. Many individuals will go to the office, and sometimes they will meet at a psych rehab location. About 50% of the clients for Chester County are remote, and the length of engagement really varies depending on what the individual is looking for. Some people have been with CareLink as long as 10 to 12 years. Some people as short as 6 to 9 months. As with everything, it's just going to depend on what the individual is looking for. And the discharge criteria, it's individual choice when they'd like to stop services. Next slide. And the difference between a traditional supportive employment system like this versus Clubhouse and psych rehab, CareLink is a little bit more outcome-based. It's appointment-based. You're not getting on-site job training or group work, and you're meeting one-on-one with the staff versus doing any sort of group work. Next slide. And here are all the various contacts. As I've mentioned in the other sessions, we're going to have a one-pager with all of this contact information. And we're also going to be recording this session. So you'll have access to this information after. But for psych rehab, I have the numbers for Elwyn and Human Services, Inc. For the Clubhouse system, for Human Services, Inc., it is the Stepping Stone Clubhouse, which is in Coatesville. And for Holcomb, it is the Cornerstone Clubhouse, which is in Phoenixville. And here are some more services or some more contacts for CareLink. And that is it for my presentation.